world. We're here literally just after I uploaded a video for part 3 with part 4 of the Legacy Antigen. My PC broke down. I'm going to cover the community chapter on its own probably tomorrow to give it its own actual proper time. That really needs some digging into. It's got a lot of background contextual information to jump into. This chapter, getting the band back together, is a real improvement on last chapter personally. It needed last chapter to work this well, but it personally gives us a hell of a lot in terms of plot progression and character development all in one chapter. I've been really enjoying their titling for this season. I don't know if it's some sort of a musical reference the whole way through. Totally unsure, but let's jump right into it. Who the hell do you think you are? Caustic is admitting, seemingly right out, that he knows. Crypto knows. Everybody in this room knows that they were raised by the same woman. She raised me too. How did she get infected? Why is she on Olympus at all? He cares. Awesome development there. How should I know? Mystik and I, don't you dare say that name. He respects her. There's so much more to his relationship with his mother than it may have seemed at first. Stop it, both of you. This is my favourite drawing of Wattson thus far. In fact, this panel, the physicality of it, the way that this artist draws bodies, I think is really good. It's faces that they lack in, but this chapter doesn't actually bother me that much with it. The others are asking questions. I didn't say anything. I wouldn't. You told Wattson? We have no secrets. That's what you need to tell yourself. Enough. I'll stall them inside, but stop wasting time. Both of you. She's a real good catalyst to balance out these two. In becoming more of a confident person in herself, she's becoming a better intermediary, and in becoming a better intermediary, she's becoming more and more confident in what she's willing to stand up for. This is some great interpersonal development done in quite short spaces of time. Now this is actually quite a big development. After your funeral, your father died of a broken heart. So it seems it's after that the family farm was foreclosed. And your mother would have done the same. Do you know what kept her going? Finding an orphanage for sale? She knew if she gave up, her precious son would never forgive her, even in death. I do wonder who it means regarding in death. I really like that the two of them seem to respect each other, and she even understands that he would have thought less of her, and she respects that. The Noxes are fucking hard as nails, man. That's how highly she thinks of you. That is the pedestal you're on. That's how much she loves you. She understands him down to his core, and she accepts him even for his rather nihilistic look at the world. She understands. And I think finding an orphanage was more her trying to bring others like it into the world. Like this man here. And you're content to watch her die? No, of course he's not. Bam! Awesome. That's all that needed to say. I'm very glad for the visual storytelling here. Dr. Caustic? Forget him. I'm going to forget this face, because it does not look right whatsoever. We're trying to figure out how they were able to pull this off. And here we get really good plot progression, personally. They'd need a roadmap, a blueprint, something in nature that already has this trait. Find that, dear, and you'll find your cure. They had one. A mammoth-class arachnid. Rare. Emits a toxic gas from its abdomen. Now, this should sound pretty familiar, but I think there's a few little technicalities about it that we'll need to explore. Oh goody, giant killer toxic spiders. Again, pretty familiar, right? Guess tiny, cuddly, hypoallergenic puppies are too much to ask for. Okay, I hadn't really read that whole line properly before. That's pretty good. We'll need Bloodhound and your ship. Nice. I like that they're thinking of ways, sort of by the professions and the skills of each legend, to bring them in to the story. Track these damn things down and bring the whole nest back if we have to. They're called Carthage Spiders. Now this is something, their Agatoxins are used in my gas traps, but you want the enzyme they produce that nullifies the Agatoxin. Thought you were gone. We don't need your help. Except you do. I'm the only one who knows where to find the arachnids. They're indigenous to only one planet. Gaea. Pack your bags, boy. We're going home. Man, damn, what a tension-filled way to end it. it's obviously still raising the question as to what Caustic will use going home actually for, and to sort of show us a bit more of why he has the attitude to his mother that he does. Maybe expand on some of his sociopathic past and some of the killings he had to do that he wished he'd enjoyed. That sort of thing. Right. Spiders. One of Caustic's very early pieces of lore is the police report from the Gaean Police Department, including statements from Detective Victor Moldera, where they mention that there is a particular spider that I think we see in one of Caustic's Heirloom animations that it's noted is similar to the chemical composition of his gas. The issue is that that police report notes an area in the Amelia mountain range on Gaea that those spiders can be found in, which doesn't line up with Caustic being the only one who knows where to find them. So I think that means, especially as Caustic's gas has never shown the specific property of making people bleed from the eyes, and we've also been told that it is generally degenerative in that it works against inorganic matter like Pathfinder's metal, for instance, as well, it would seem that Caustic's toxin is a mixture of at least 2 different spider toxins and perhaps some of the residue that we saw emerge from the IMS Thermopylae crash on Kings Canyon. Here, his toxin doesn't have to be one of those single ingredients, it could be multiple of them. And it is the exploration of Project Legacy into the very specific toxin produced by Carthage spiders that led to the production of the genetically modified Medusa vines. One of the effects I think we can claim to have seen the vines have is that they are able to degenerate organic and inorganic material, which again does sort of line up with some of the properties of Caustic's gas. It also is a little suspect to me that this sort of timeline of Project Legacy could actually tie into Caustic's work at Humbert Labs, and the access to these different spider toxins could at least be a suggestion that Caustic or his research did end up leading to Project Legacy or affecting it in some way. Or perhaps the inverse, that his research originally came from that and he has a lot more to tell us than we first know. I then also sort of have to wonder why you would call the project based around an experimental, overgrowing, weaponizing plant to be called Project Legacy. A legacy tends to be something that lasts and persists. So maybe weaponizing it isn't exactly the purpose it was originally designed for. Maybe there is something else to this, in that it's more about assimilation rather than degeneration. You can also then jump into things like his time at Vinson Dynamics, and his heirloom definitely could suggest that he has a simulacrum in his hammer, and I kind of wouldn't be surprised if that is someone that could be important at some point. Perhaps Dr. Humbert himself, he took some brain matter, perhaps it's his dad, and the belief that he died of a broken heart is slightly incorrect. Plenty to be seen there. But something else that I'm at least kind of intrigued about as we're going back home to Gaea, I think that this could actually lead into way more for Crypto than it might first appear here. Obviously he'll be able to get some more context for Caustic and for Mystik and their history, but going back to Gaea, theoretically, puts Crypto in proximity of Big Sister. The whole gang going back to Gaea also does lead Rampart into that sort of interaction, but if the theory about Big Sister and Mila were true, Crypto going back to Gaea with Caustic would probably be a decent opportunity to drop at least a suggestion of either of those characters in. So that's something else to look forward to in the future as well, I think. So this chapter was like really snappy and punchy. I think it had some of the best art we've had. I think it also had one of the worst facial expressions in the entire season thus far. But again, I'm willing to put that aside for how personally effective this chapter was, both in terms of plot progression and how it then tied that plot progression to the inclusion of further legends and to the character development of the significant characters involved, along with giving us even more world building to help frame the setting of this story. Seems there's quite a lot of good to come from this. I'm glad that this chapter is set before the latest community chapter, because again, Bangalore and Wraith really have some deep-seated issues that they have to work through there. I'll be getting to that as soon as I can, but for now, I would say that Part 4 of the Legacy Antigen, getting the band back together, is, I think, my favourite chapter of the in-game chapters thus far. It's personally done the most with, potentially, the least. I think it's an incredibly refined chapter for what it's trying to do. A lot of the character development was shown off really well in a visual style or through the character's actions, and then largely backed up by the dialogue, rather than the dialogue being the prime focus. There's also other little further suggestions you can take, like the fact that Caustic is taking us to one specific place that only he can find, does make me wonder if he's got a greenhouse on Gaea where he raises a brood of spiders. Again, I think even that in itself not only is a nice bit of world building, an obvious piece of plot development, but also a rather clear piece of character development. For a character so fixated with death to have one little secluded place to themselves that's focused rather distinctly on life and the proliferation of such is a nice counterpoint to expand this guy beyond those sort of 1 or 2 dimensions that you could maybe originally see him in. I really enjoy that we're fleshing out Caustic into an understandable character, even if he's not ultimately redeemable. But that remains to be seen. So pack your bags, folks. We're going home. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed yourselves today. I hope you've enjoyed this chapter and my thoughts on it. I personally feel way better about this review than I do with the video I released a few hours ago. And now that I have my PC back and my life is sorted back together, hopefully we're back on track for some kick-ass shit for the rest of this season, from the Legacy Antigen, and obviously from me as well, right? So, thank you for staying with me, friends. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates, and may the glorious light of Baskerville shine within you. Bye-bye.